I lust after my roommate Randy's body. Every night I would sneak into his bed while he was sleeping. This time, as soon as I unbuttoned his shirt, my wrist was grabbed. "So it was you who bit me, little pervert." 1. At 2 a.m., snoring sounds could be heard in the dormitory. I secretly climbed onto Randy's bed and pretended to call him Randy twice. Randy's long eyelashes trembled slightly, and his thick eyebrows were furrowed, but he didn't wake up. I gently turned up his collar and smelled his neck. Firm, slender, with a distinct Adam's apple and a jawline as smooth as a guitar string. He is even more stunning than the male models in magazines. Further down, his pectoral muscles are no less impressive than those of an athlete. I was so excited that I almost put my nose on it. There's really no way, I can't resist his smell. He swallowed twice, and the rolling piece of flesh attracted me. I licked his Adam's apple and couldn't help but suck on it. Suddenly a strong wind blew near my ears, and Randy slapped me away, rolling to the ground. The noise woke up the other roommates and the lights came on. I got up in a panic, put on a fierce face, and yelled at Randy, who was in shock. "Sleep, sleep, sleep. I told you to sleep. What's that smell that woke me up?" "But you were sleeping so soundly." I cursed harshly, but my eyes were flickering and I didn't dare to look at him. Randy's face fell, and there was some embarrassment in his eyes. My roommates understood what I meant and started cursing as well. I took the opportunity to throw the keys at Randy. Get out of here and go to the apartment I bought outside the school. Sleep in the room next to the balcony. You can only use jasmine-scented shower gel when you take a shower. You don't have to take a shower if you want. You are not allowed to close the windows when you sleep." The room was filled with silence. A metallic voice rang in my ears. "Are you sure this is bullying?" I replied. "It doesn't matter, I will sting him." The metal voice replied, "That's fine." Then a semi-transparent pop-up window appeared in front of me, and Randy's broken value on the pop-up window slowly increased by 1. 2. That's right. I am a time traveler. 3. 1 year ago, I suddenly entered this body. A voice calling itself the system told me that this world is a book of redemption and I am the villain in the book. Because the protagonist's father is a driver in my house. I have been bullying him since he was a child. There is nothing wrong with this plot, but the problem is that I am not human. I am a male mosquito. I was leisurely sucking the flower juice and singing in the jasmine bushes. Suddenly, something hit me and I saw stars. When I woke up, I turned into a human being. Host, your mission is to raise Randy's broken value to 100. I'll give you the original plot, and you just need to follow it. Buzz? Stop buzzing. Ah, what the hell? The system quickly panicked. This is my last mission before retirement. It's over. I bound it to the wrong person. Forget it. Anyway, host, as long as you complete the mission, I will resurrect you in your original world. Resurrection in the original world. But mosquitoes can only live for more than 10 days. Wouldn't it be better for humans to live longer than mosquitoes here? I slid down to my knees quickly. Anyway, I just need to bully the hero regularly according to the script, and when the person who redeems him appears, my mission will be accomplished. Just enjoy the process. For the system picked an entry point for me. On Randy's birthday, his mother gave him a pair of shoes. Martin was annoyed with him, so he deliberately spilled Coke on his shoes. Randy had always been submissive, but that time he suddenly exploded and had a fierce fight with Martin. The incident became a big deal, and the dean called Randy's mother over. "Randy, apologize now. Martin's father is so kind to us. How can you fight with Martin?" At this moment, I entered Martin's body. With the severe pain in the back of my head, I raised my head and saw Randy sitting opposite me. He was thin, with a stubborn heart hidden under his baggy school uniform shirt. He had a small, pale face, which made his eyebrows and eyes look particularly strong. From a distance, the first thing that caught your eye was his furrowed eyebrows and long, crow-feather-like eyelashes. Just as I was about to take my first step as a human being, I smelled a fragrance. It floated out from Randy's body. I couldn't explain the smell. I was originally only interested in the nectar, but I was captured by the fragrance and almost pounced on him. The system said, "Host, your line is, 'Why, you dare not say a word in front of your dear mother.'" My dear. The system thought that I had said too much, so it made an urgent modification. "Admit your mistake, or you will die." Me. I was wrong. After these two sentences, the office fell silent. The system quickly realized that I had not yet fully adapted to human speech patterns and decided to let me do it directly. "Host, hit him." I did as I was told, stretched out my thin arms, and grabbed Randy's collar. The indescribable fragrance instantly captured my mind. I climbed onto Randy's shoulders bonelessly and put my mouth towards Randy's neck. "Pa!" Randy slapped me on the head, just like swatting a mosquito. After taking the photo, he stared at his hands in a daze, as if he didn't know where this conditioned reflex came from. He knocked me unconscious, and before I lost consciousness, I heard Randy's mother scream. 5. In the end, it was Randy's mother who took me to the hospital and asked Randy to take good care of me. When I woke up, Randy was peeling an apple for me. He was obviously not convinced, and he peeled the apple fiercely, turning it into a polyhedron. System. Story loading. The following plot was slowly sent into my mind by the system. Randy and I had an argument in the hospital, and I told Randy to either go to jail, pay $200,000 in medical expenses, or become my dog. Randy handed me the apple. "Why do you always pick on me? I didn't offend you. We even had a pretty good relationship when we were kids." I didn't take the apple and grabbed his wrist. I repeated, "Or pay me $200,000. Or..." I couldn't finish. The scent of Randy's body took away my consciousness again. I leaned forward with my eyes wide open and put my lips to Randy's neck. Randy's expression changed drastically. Just as he was about to get up and avoid me, I threw him down on the hospital bed. "Host, what are you doing?" The system screamed in my head. I ignored him and focused on getting closer to Randy's neck. "It smells so good. I want to inhale it." Randy grabbed my face in panic, holding tightly onto the collar of his shirt that I was pulling at. By the time he successfully pushed me away and stood up, his neck was already red. Randy's mother happened to push the door open and asked, "What are you doing?" Randy instinctively pulled his shirt down over his shoulders. He looked at me angrily and said, "I didn't expect you to come up with this idea. Go eat shit." After saying that, he took his mother and walked away quickly. I stared at his back, unable to recover. 6. The plot deviated and the system gave me emergency training that night. The system told me that Martin and Randy were both attending local college and were in the same class. Martin was very generous and had formed a small group in the class. Normally, as long as he gave Randy a look, the people in the small group would go up to pick trouble with Randy, laugh at him, bully him, force him to run errands, and beat him if he didn't obey. The system said that the broken value they bullied out would also count as mine, so let me follow them first. This is the novice protection period. 7. After a night of rest, I returned to school. As soon as I entered the classroom, I was stopped by a tall male classmate with a broken eyebrow. He said mysteriously that he wanted to show me something interesting. I saw Randy in the bathroom. Randy's shoes were thrown into the toilet sink, and he was forced to half-kneel on the ground by two male classmates who were smoking cigarettes and twisting their arms. There were several footprints on his trouser legs. His shirt was torn. There was chewing gum in his hair. Blood was oozing from the corners of his mouth, and his eyes were glaring at me viciously. And I just wanted to scream, because Randy's pleasant scent was completely covered up by the disgusting smell in the toilet. Randy has red eyes. "Martin, I won't do what you want." Broken Eyebrow picked up the mop that was leaning against the wall in the bathroom and raised his hand to hit Randy on the head. I couldn't stand the smell and lost control. I rushed over and pushed Broken Eyebrow to the ground, then pulled Randy and ran out of the bathroom. I dragged Randy to the corner of the stairs. The wind blew away the stench, and I just breathed a sigh of relief when Randy pushed me away. "What are you doing? Didn't you ask them to do this? Why are you pretending?" I denied. "No." The system screamed to remind me. "Host, villain character." I immediately changed my words. You pay me the 200,000 yuan. Randy was silent. Although 200,000 may sound a bit exaggerated, it is a reasonable compensation for a young master like me. He is an upright man and would not default on his debts. He must be feeling very embarrassed now. I just need to keep asking him for money. Huh? When I came to my senses, I found myself with my nose pressed against Randy's heaving pectoral muscles. Hot, bouncy, and fragrant. I remembered the line I hadn't finished saying before, "Or be my dog." As soon as I finished speaking, Randy pushed me to squat. He ran away again. The system says Randy is difficult to deal with. Even after so many things happened, his fragmentation value is still 1. He said I was more of a hindrance than a help, and that I was an old pervert. Nerve. I am not old. The system said that not only would the gangsters no longer help me bully Randy, but they would also most likely make me their new target. I will fail faster than my predecessors. What should I do then? Upper strength. The system provides me with some routines. 1. Abuse of the protagonist's beloved pet. 2nd, let the protagonist be tortured by a group of hooligans in turn. 3rd, pretend to care about the protagonist, expose him/her in public when the protagonist completely trusts you, and then abuse him/her even more. This is too much of a compliment to me. I have been a vegetarian all my life, and I can't even beat my sisters in the clan. How could I have such ability? Life is dull and mosquitoes torture humans. The system asked me to implement the first routine immediately. It told me that Randy would go feed stray cats every once in a while and asked me to kill the stray cats. 9. Following the system instructions, I found the little orange cat. But it fell dead under the jasmine bushes. Could be death from old age or death from injuries. For some unknown reason, I reached out and touched its head. At the same time, Randy's voice sounded behind me. "What are you doing?" When Randy discovered the dead orange cat at my feet, he was horrified and his face turned terrifying. "You killed it." He looked at me. The system got excited and shouted in my mind, "Great! The broken value is 45. You said it was you? No, 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 no." I denied it reflexively. System. Sorry, system, maybe I am really a coward. Randy didn't say anything else. He took off his shirt, leaving only a vest, and placed the body of the orange cat on it. An idea suddenly occurred to me, and I bent down to pick up a few jasmine flowers and threw them in before Randy buried the orange cat. Randy turned and glared at me. I stammered, "It must like jasmine very much, so it chose this place." Randy was stunned. He blinked twice, and his expression softened. 10. Randy looked up at me. "You seem different from before." The system was about to scold me, but then it noticed that Randy's fragmentation value had increased by 1 point, so it gave up. 11. In order to break the value, I followed Randy back to his house. I saw that the breakage value would not increase any further, and just as I was about to leave, I heard the sound of chairs being thrown from upstairs. I thought of Randy's gambling father in the plot and didn't know what to say for a moment. The system suddenly screamed in my mind, "Host, why did Randy's brokenness value drop? It's back to 1. I started to panic along with the system and quickly looked at Randy. Randy's eyes were fixed on a lighted window of the building opposite. His lips tightly pursed and his jaw tensed. Through that window, you can see a warm family sitting inside. That orange light seemed to be what he had always wanted to pursue. "Come to my house," I suddenly said to Randy. Randy was shocked. "What?" It was then that I realized what I had said. You can be my tutor to offset the $200,000. The system is going crazy in my head. "Host, you don't want..." Wait, the broken value is 5. Forget it. I'm done. 12. Randy actually followed me over here. First, he can hide from his father, and second, he can pay back the money. He has no reason to refuse me. Randy and I were eating face to face. He didn't speak, and I didn't speak either. The atmosphere was very awkward. As I was chewing, 2 of the same kind suddenly fell on me. I was pleasantly surprised that I was still accepted by my own kind, and raised my arms happily, trying to say hello to them. Then I got stung. "We, our own people." I stood up in a panic. flapping my arms back and forth like a chicken flapping its wings. The two of their kind clung to my arms tightly, obviously treating me as just a moving dining car. As expected, Randy looked at me like I was an idiot. I lowered my head in disappointment and drank the soup quietly. Randy burst out laughing. My head felt hot and I just felt that he smelled so good and he looked so handsome when he smiled. The shadow of his eyelashes was cast in his pupils by the ceiling light in the restaurant, obscuring the rippling water in his eyes. I moved toward him like a ghost. The system speaks out in time. Host, I think we still have to try to bully a little. What? I see there is a plot here that can be used. The system told me that there was a scene in the plot where Martin bullied Randy at home. Martin tricked Randy into coming to his house for a reading club, then teamed up with a few friends to mock him for being a servant's son, tore up his textbooks, stripped him of his clothes, poured water on him, and locked him in the utility room for a night. Randy would hug himself tightly in the cold darkness, brewing hatred and despair alone. So I glared at him and firmly grabbed Randy's hand. Make up lessons, I said to him. Randy's hand trembled, but he didn't pull it away. 13. The system missed one thing. Odor. Randy stood in front of the desk, taking out textbooks and class notes one by one from his bag. He was wearing only a vest, and as he moved, the scent of his body emanated from his skin. In the warm, enclosed space, the effect of Randy's scent was maximized. I stared at Randy's neck half-heartedly, and my IQ dropped rapidly. Nectar. Randy's neck must be filled with nectar. Randy took out his textbook and placed it in front of me. However, my face was dull. Randy couldn't believe it and took out a workbook with a cartoon character on the cover. You are in the 3rd grade of elementary school, right? I was probably humiliated, so I immediately followed the plot provided by the system, grabbed the exercise book that Randy had placed on the table, and threw it at Randy with my backhand. What should I say in the story? It seems so. You really think you are a teacher. Aren't you afraid of getting into trouble? So I yelled, take it off. My language skills have returned to Mosquito level. Randy's originally contemptuous expression instantly turned into panic when he heard this, and he quickly crossed his hands in front of his chest. His actions reminded me that what I should do next is to strip him naked, pour water on him, and then lock him in the utility room. I immediately pulled Randy's collar. He ran away and I chased him. I just wanted to complete my mission. He took a few steps and hid in the bathroom. I chased him closely and tripped over his left foot again, crashing into him and the door. He was knocked backwards, and the back of his head hit the wall with a thud. Before falling down, he subconsciously reached out and opened the shower valve. Several jets of water rushed down on our heads, soaking both him and me. Randy's hair was flattened by the water, and his long raven feather eyelashes were weighed down by the water droplets, making them messy and intertwined. His lips were moistened by the warm water and turned a light pink like petals. I was still holding Randy's collar, and Randy's chest kept rising and falling under the translucent fabric. Stop running, I said in a hoarse voice. The smell on him suddenly became stronger, and my remaining IQ was shattered to pieces. I saw Randy's Adam's apple rolling, and he licked his lower lip. I really want to suck it. I pressed my half-wet body against Randy's and pressed my lips against his. 14. Host. Iowa. The system screamed, and I suddenly woke up. Randy pushed me away and ran out the door. I only had time to see his wet hair and red ears before he disappeared. 15. The system says that I am obsessed with sex and not doing my job properly. This is my first time as a human being and I don't have any other hobbies. What's wrong with taking a slightly off-track path? I repeatedly emphasized that the odor was the cause and asked the system to solve it. The system cannot solve the problem, and this is the first time that mosquitoes have become hosts. The first step to bullying Randy normally is to get closer to Randy. And I failed at the first step because there was no way I could get close to Randy. After being severely warned by the system, I followed the plot step by step. I ran to kick Randy's table, and as soon as Randy looked up, the fragrance wafted over. I endured the pain and said the lines, "You're going to default on me, right? Before the next class." The second half of the sentence became increasingly unclear, and I began to scratch Randy's chin with my fingers. "Host!" The system shouted in my head. I quickly pulled my hand back, laughed dryly, and left in a hurry. During the break, Randy's old cell phone, which he used to listen to English, was snatched away by two male classmates and tossed back and forth. Randy grabbed the boy's collar and was about to hit him. I happened to pass by and the boy threw his cell phone to me as usual. I caught the phone, but before I could react, Randy grabbed my arm. Randy's scent filled my nostrils again. I was confused and stuffed the phone directly into Randy's trouser pocket. Maybe it touched something else, so I turned around and ran away again, which was a big mistake. The system was furious. "Are you bullying me? Huh?" I was also furious. "If you can do it, go ahead." The system cannot be accessed, so I can only think of a solution for me. How about the host pinch your nose? So I pinched my nose when I saw Randy. I kicked his stool while pinching my nose and deliberately bumped his shoulder while pinching my nose. I shouted, "What's that smell? It's killing me." Randy pursed his lips and turned his face away. I was pleasantly surprised to find that he didn't seem to dare to look me in the eye. "System, is he a little broken?" The system was helpless. "He is laughing secretly. Listen to your duck voice." "Impossible. He must be emotionally hurt and broken." I chased after Randy to make eye contact. Randy escaped in a panic. When he left the classroom, he passed by Duanmei. Duanmei looked at his back as he fled, then looked at me who was chasing him with a loud laugh, his face looking indescribably gloomy. 16. But unexpectedly something went wrong. I didn't expect that while I was doing the bullying task, I suddenly became the target of bullying. Randy and I were thrown into an abandoned sports warehouse with our arms twisted. Broken Eyebrow had his hands in his trouser pockets. Behind us were 7 or 8 male classmates who were shabbily dressed and had poor posture. All of them had expressions that looked like they were holding back a fart. I was confused. "What's going on?" Broken Eyebrow grinned at me. "A gift for Martin." Broken Eyebrow pulled Randy's hair, forcing him to raise his face. Randy's entire body turned red like a cooked crab, and he cursed angrily. "Are you all crazy? What's the point of doing this?" Broken Eyebrow said with a smile. "Of course it's interesting. I see you guys flirting all day long but just unwilling to break that window paper. I feel anxious for you guys." I didn't understand. "What window paper?" Broken Eyebrow shook his head. "Martin, you condescended to play with us for 2 or 3 years, just to treat us as part of your play? I don't understand anymore." Randy's smell suddenly became stronger. I couldn't help but hold my breath and turn my head away. Broken Eyebrow pressed the back of Randy's head relentlessly and moved his face closer to mine. "Don't be shy." Randy's arms were held up. His back was pressed by his knees, and his calves were pressed to the ground. He kept cursing. "Are you crazy? Whatever you want to do. Come at me. Don't do this." The sounds of taking pictures rang out one after another, and the laughter sounded very far away. I was holding my breath until my head felt dizzy. Randy's lips were finally pressed against mine. My consciousness vanished with a pop. 17. That incident should be the system's solution for me, because I was in the classroom when I was awake. Randy broke his leg for no apparent reason and had his leg put in a cast. Duanmei was playing cards with someone in the corner of the classroom and didn't even look at us. The atmosphere was too calm, as if nothing had happened. I quietly asked the system what was going on. The system sighed and said that it had no choice but to use a memory modification. "Why? Am I going to have to watch this book being taken offline because of its standards?" The system sighed. "I really have lost my integrity. I have to pay points for taking you on the mission." What does it have to do with me?" The system said. "Go and see Randy yourself." I walked up to Randy timidly, and before I got close, I saw that Randy's mouth was bruised and there were countless red spots on his neck, extending up to behind his ears and all the way down to his collar. Randy's fair neck slowly turned red, probably because of my gaze. He pretended to think and put his hands up to support his face, covering his ears and neck. I asked him, "What's wrong with your neck?" Randy looked like he was trying to remember. It was a mosquito bite. Ah, I looked down and asked, what about your legs? It was also a mosquito bite. System, listen to the memory you modified. Is there any logic? The system scolded me. How about you let him remember that you chased him, sucked, nibbled, and tore his clothes, and he hid from you until he climbed up the windowsill and broke his leg. Am I so fierce? But speaking of broken legs, I thought of a plot in which Martin wrote insulting words on Randy's body with a marker. Randy didn't dare let his mother know about it, so he wandered outside with his broken leg until everyone was asleep before going home. I snatched the pen from Randy's hand, squatted down, and wrote crooked words on the plaster of Randy's injured leg. Thin dog, stupid. Randy suddenly said over my head, did you know that only kindergarten kids would do this? What? Bullying she. Forget it. Randy was about to say something but stopped, propping up his chin with his hand and tilting his head away. Continue with the tutoring. Teen. Randy offered to tutor me. The system finds this ridiculous. I asked him, what's so ridiculous? He owes me 200,000. The system ignored me. Let me check other values. What is the value? The system still ignored me, and after a long while it said, damn, I'm already 66. What? The system suddenly said in a voice that was enlightening. I am too narrow-minded. How about this, host? You should be nice to him, let him completely love, trust you, and then you can hit him hard and say that you are playing a trick on him. Wow, it thinks too highly of me. Do I have that kind of intelligence? But now that things have come to this point, there seems to be no other way to accomplish the task if I don't do it. After all, as soon as I smelled Randy's scent, I felt like I had lost my soul. The system started to work, but it didn't work that way, so I just followed Randy's instructions and took extra classes. Most of the human skills I have now are from Martin's original self. Even though I use them poorly, at least I have attended the classes. In our senior year, Randy and I were both preparing for postgraduate studies. My score was over 200, which was quite far from the requirement for admission. Randy's tutoring was a timely help. The second time Randy came back to my house, Martin came back to the villa for the first time and said that if I could get into graduate school with the help of Randy, he would reward me with a trip abroad with Randy. Randy subconsciously looked back at me, and when he saw that my expression didn't change, he politely rejected Martin. It's my duty to help Martin. I owe him money. Martin smiled and said, you owe it to me and I will give it to you. I quietly asked the system, is Randy really not Martin's father's illegitimate son? No. Martin soon came over and touched my head again. He said that when I was a kid and was with Randy, that was when I smiled the most. He really wanted to be as happy as before. I looked at the smile in the corners of Martin's eyes, and my chest felt a little sore. When I really like his smell, I will secretly take the paper ball off my nose and sniff it next to his head. Occasionally, I'd go a step further and suck a lump out of his neck. The system said that if I hadn't focused on the broken value, I might have completed the task earlier. I don't understand what it means. Anyway, when Randy had 7 lumps on his neck, he removed the plaster. The first test is here too. 19. Randy passed the preliminary examination for graduate school at University A. I'm not surprised he made it. He stayed in the local area to go to college in order to take care of his mother. The reason he couldn't stand out in the early days was because he was bullied. Later on, he became a new technological elite and then a domineering boss who overturned the business world. His abilities in all aspects must be top-notch. But others don't know. The teachers were excited and delighted, but also confused. Randy was reported for cheating in the preliminary exam. By the time I heard about this, Randy had already been called into the dean's office. The system is abnormally agitated, because this plot is wild. I slowly and stealthily reached the office door and heard a quarrel inside. I looked again and found that it was a broken eyebrow. A graduate student at University A? Is that possible? I'm not looking for trouble. I saw him come out of the teacher's office and put a folded paper into his pants pocket. He already knew what the test would be. Isn't this too unfair? Wow, broken eyebrow's fighting ability is so strong. Why doesn't the system bind him? Randy happened to look up, saw me standing at the door, and pursed his lips. I asked the system, "What should I do now?" The system simply gave me the decision-making power. "You are free to play." So I walked into the office bravely, and then stopped timidly under the gaze of the teachers. The bald, short, and fat dean was still very polite to me. "Martin, what can I do for you?" "Teacher, I'm reporting Randy for cheating." He already knew what questions would be on the preliminary exam. The dean's eyes widened, his eyebrows curled up, and Randy's face turned ashen. "Martin, someone has reported it." "Yes, but I have a new perspective. The questions in this preliminary exam have all appeared in the papers that Randy has done before, including the Midorioka real exam papers and the postgraduate entrance exam papers." He knew that these questions would be tested. As soon as he finished speaking, the tense atmosphere in the office relaxed. The ice on Randy's face also melted away. Broken Eyebrow glared at me. "You want to say that he passed the exam based on his own ability, right? Then what did he take when he entered the office? What is it?" Randy was silent for a moment and took out a piece of paper. "It's a scholarship application form. I found that there are students in my class who need financial aid more, so I took it back." "If you say so, then so?" Duanmei said, unconvinced. Randy's expression remained unchanged, as determined as a rock. "I will pass the retest as well. My score can prove my innocence." 20. "Isn't he a bit handsome among humans?" I touched my chest. "Seems to be a bit of a stall." Randy's eyes met mine, and he got flustered for a moment, then turned his head away. 21. There was no evidence of broken eyebrows, so the matter just passed. The last semester ended quickly. During the more than 20-day winter vacation, Martin took me to travel abroad. I am just a mosquito, but with the help of Martin, I have seen the colorful world of humans. I have to thank my original self from the bottom of my heart. During the Chinese New Year, Martin and I watched the fireworks in Chinatown in Country F, and I video called Randy. Randy asked me why I showed him this. I said, "It would be nice if you were by my side. Well, we can be together even though we are far apart." Randy asked me, "Do you know the next line?" "Ah." Randy smiled at me on the video, and I felt inexplicably flustered. "Next semester starts." I noticed subtly that Randy had changed. He started avoiding me. This kind of hiding is very subtle. He would still help me with my lessons and explain the questions to me, but other than that he would not talk to me actively and would never look at my face. System. Has he discovered that I am going to play tricks on him? I don't want to explain. This won't work. Randy is hiding from me, and I can't carry out my mission. I have no choice but to use my original talents. Randy was listening to English at the corner of the corridor, and I suddenly appeared. Randy was reading a book by the flower bed when I suddenly appeared. Randy stopped to wipe the sweat off his face during his night run, and I suddenly appeared. Randy didn't close the window when he went to bed at night, and I suddenly appeared. Randy is in the bathroom stall. I suddenly appeared. Wow! Randy quickly zipped up his pants and looked at me, sticking my head out from the top of the cubicle, his face turning into a tomato again. "You don't have to block the way here, do you?" "I'll block you if you want. Do you still need to consider the location?" I tore 2 handfuls of toilet paper into pieces, raised my hand, and scattered flowers over his head. I said, "The bride is getting married." The shredded paper slowly fell to the ground, and Randy didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He raised his hand to catch the shredded paper, and his expression slowly calmed down, just like when he was a child reaching out to catch a snowflake slowly falling from the sky in winter. His eyes were clear and bright, and filled with hope. "I always feel that you have changed a lot, but I also feel like I am very familiar with you." He stood up and came closer to me, blowing away a piece of paper that had landed on the tip of my nose. I was in a trance. My chest began to roar wildly again, but I quickly noticed the bruises on Randy's arms. I asked Randy, "What is this?" Randy's face froze and he withdrew his hand. "Don't show up like that again." He stood up, opened the door, and walked quickly out of the compartment. 22. I continued to appear suddenly, downstairs of Randy's house. The light was on in the window of Randy's house, and a fierce argument could be heard from inside, accompanied by a woman's crying and the sound of something breaking. I asked the system, "What's going on?" The system immediately changed the plot. Randy's father lost a lot of money during this period, and he always beat them when he got home. Randy's father took away all the tuition money saved for Randy, and this time he is trying to steal the money for Randy's mother's surgery. I thought of the bruises on Randy's body and instantly understood everything. The system then said, "This is an important plot." Important plot? Randy would beat his dad into the hospital. His dad called the police and he spent 10 days in detention. When he got out, he dropped out of school. Will he drop out of school? Randy's father went to school to make trouble. After dropping out of school, he has been working to raise money for his mother's medical treatment. Wait, can this directly complete the broken value task? I bit my lip, thinking of Randy hunched over the table doing his test paper, the shadow of his eyelashes on the test paper under the light. I remember the day when I went home with Randy. When he looked at the family celebrating their birthday in the opposite window, his eyes seemed to have 1,000 words to say. He patiently explained the wrong questions to me and said that the scores were my proof. He said, "I feel like you are different from before." He asked me what the next sentence of "we are all together at this moment" was. He smiled at me, his eyes brighter than fireworks. I murmured, "It shouldn't be like this." The system was stunned. "What?" I raised my foot and ran towards Randy's house. The system didn't understand what I was trying to do and was yelling at me in my head. I quickly ran up the stairs and came to Randy's door. The door opened and Randy's father came out with a cookie box and was stunned when he saw me. I looked over Randy's father's shoulder and saw Randy's mother slumped in the corner with tears on her face. I also saw the jasmine pot smashed on the ground. I saw Randy, with blood on the corner of his mouth, holding up a rolling pin with anger on his face and swinging it at the back of Randy's father's head. My eyes met Randy's at that moment. Randy's movements shifted and the rolling pin hit the door, making a loud noise. Randy's father looked back and saw the rolling pin embedded in the door panel. He was shocked and angry and kicked Randy to the ground. The frustration at the gambling table and his own son's disobedience made him completely out of control. He turned around and kicked and punched Randy without paying any attention to my presence, and his fists made a whistling sound. Randy's eyes turned red, and he roared and rushed towards his father, pushing him out of the door. The two men wrestled together at the stairs, and Randy's father grabbed the broom near the door and smashed Randy's leg in two. Randy screamed in pain. I was afraid that Randy's leg, which had just healed, would be injured again, so I subconsciously rushed over to block it. Randy's father couldn't stop hitting me, and the broken broom, accompanied by a sound of wind, hit me directly on the forehead. I saw stars and fell down, rolling down the stairs. 23. My consciousness left my body. After a burst of severe pain, I floated in the air and saw Randy rushing downstairs in panic and picked up me with a bleeding head. The scene was too horrifying. The system seemed to still be with my consciousness. It was as confused as I was when it saw this situation. I asked what was going on. It disappeared briefly. I saw Randy's father push Randy away and run away, and Randy picked me up and ran towards the main road. I subconsciously followed Randy and saw him get into a taxi. He held me in his arms and shivered in the car. He called Martin, he took me to the hospital, he waited outside the emergency room, he stayed by my bedside. He explained the situation to Randy's mother and Martin, who came over, his fists clenched tightly. This is the first time I've seen Randy lose his composure like this, and I'm still thinking about how broken he is now. After Martin left, Randy's mother talked to Randy for a while, and Randy insisted on staying to keep watch for me, so Randy's mother left first. He stayed by my body until he couldn't stand it anymore and fell asleep beside my bed, and I floated above his head, guarding him. The system is back. Host. I have bad news for you. What? The previous traveler used all his points to exchange for the opportunity to travel by force, so your soul was squeezed out. I didn't understand, until I saw Martin sit up and kick Randy off the bed. Randy was woken up by the fall. He was surprised at first, but then he was stunned when he saw Martin's gloomy face. Martin bent down and patted his face. "You bastard! Are you awake from your dream?" I saw the expression on Randy's face disappear little by little and turn into a blank look. The system said regretfully, "Previous generations planted trees, and future generations enjoy the shade." Martin got off the bed and kicked Randy. "Have you been happy recently? Huh? You are worthy of being called a bastard. I have abused you for more than 10 years. And now you start wagging your tail again when I treat you better. If you die, your father will be in jail for the rest of his life. And you, your mother, will not have a good life either." Randy didn't dodge and was kicked by Martin. When Martin kicked him the second time, Randy grabbed Martin's ankle and his eyes slowly turned red. He said, "You!" Martin raised his hand and slapped Randy. The system suddenly counted silently. Broken value 33, 45, 57, 62. I tried to stop Martin, but Martin's fists and feet passed through my shadow without any hindrance. I was furious. "System, make him give my body back to me." The system's voice was indifferent. "Sorry, my current host is him." As soon as the words fell, I felt as if my consciousness was being rapidly pulled away from Randy. I seemed to be squeezed into a beam and then folded into a thin sheet. Everything in front of me was getting farther and farther away from me, and I flowed like sand into the endless dazzling white light. "No, I can't leave." I fought the suction, gathered myself together, struggled hard, and threw myself at Randy. I bumped into a tiny body. Buzz, buzz. That familiar feeling of lightness returned to me. I tried my best, but then my eyes went dark and I fell lightly. 24. "Hey guys, I'm a Mosquito again." 25. Mosquito's daily routine is to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning. First go to the grass to eat some grass juice, drink some dew, and then look for friends of the same kind to fight in a group. There's a fellow called Mosquito over there courting. Funny, how can a male mosquito beat a female mosquito? Got beaten, right? Go to some water at 9 o'clock and take a nap. If any of my sisters want to give birth here, I will give up my place. I seem to have forgotten something. Mosquito has a small brain, so just forget it. What does brain mean? There is a little boy in this house. I looked at him. He was doing a 3rd grade math workbook. Hey, I can do everything he can't do. Huh? What is mathematics? Why would I? Randy? 26. As my brain felt like it was being sawed apart, I remembered everything. The traverser, the system, the broken value, Randy. Oh no. I looked at the little boy's calendar. Retest tomorrow. If the former time traveler wanted to press on and raise Randy's broken value to 100 in one breath, the fastest way would be to make Randy fail the re-examination, thus proving the crime of cheating, and then use the fact that Randy's father hurt someone to get Randy expelled from school. I have to go to the retest site. The little boy packed his school bag and ran out. I immediately flew onto the boy's school bag and followed him to the bus stop. Route 367. Okay, yes. I immediately changed buses and parked on the shoulder of a girl who was waiting for bus 367. "The bus is here, get on." "Girl, there's a mosquito on your shoulder. Depend on." I narrowly dodged the girl's slap and floated to the ceiling of the bus. "Pa! Damn! No way! Brother, are you going to jump up and shoot me?" "Pa! I have been doing good deeds all my life. As a male mosquito, I have never even sucked human blood." I flew up and down to escape countless slaps on the bus, and landed on the bald head of the bus driver with a panicked heart and weak legs. 1 stop, 2 stops, 5 stops. Okay. I'm at the re-examination center set up by University A in this city. I flew out of the car window, found a young lady who was obviously there for the re-examination, and lay on her backpack calmly. Arrived at the gate, looked at the exam information. Randy is in classroom A. The bell rang and the crowd rushed to the classrooms. I danced into classroom A and stopped at the blackboard. Randy's not here. You can't enter the exam room 15 minutes after the exam starts." "Randy? Where's Randy?" I flew out in a hurry and saw the time traveler and the broken eyebrow. I heard Broken Eyebrow say to the time traveler, "Don't worry, he can't come." What's the meaning? The exam began and everything around me became quiet except for the rustling sound of the pen hitting the test paper. I was so anxious that I ran around everywhere. In a panic, I saw a figure in the distance climbing down from the rooftop along a water pipe. Shit, it's Randy. They locked Randy up on the rooftop. The wind was strong and the pipes looked as if they were shaking. Randy will fall. 27. All the teachers were invigilating and the security guards were looking at their phones, and no one noticed Randy. I ran around the teachers and the security guards, trying to lure them over, but they just waved me away. I flew towards Randy against the strong wind. Just as I had expected, Randy was beaten again. His clothes were torn and the backs of his hands were bruised. I shouted to him, "Stop climbing down!" But all he heard was a buzzing sound. Randy wanted to climb up the water pipe to the 4th floor. He frowned, pursed his lips, and stared at the corridor railing not far from his feet. I saw him holding the water pipe with his right hand and reaching towards the corridor railing with his left hand. 10 centimeters difference. I flew over to Randy's hands and tried in vain to pull him towards the railing, but it was no use. Randy stretched his arms hard to reach forward, but the screws on the water pipe loosened at the same time, and the entire water pipe suddenly slid away from the fence, leaving Randy hanging in the air. It's already a critical moment. I was going crazy. Is there any other solution? Is there any other solution? I looked down and saw the time traveler standing downstairs watching me with a smile. My eyes turned red with hatred. If I could get this body. I gritted my teeth, flapped my wings, and slammed myself into the wall. Just like I had experienced before, my consciousness floated away. This time, I aimed at the traverser and pounced on him viciously. The time traveler had just entered Martin's body and the fusion was not stable. I rushed into Martin's body regardless. He didn't expect me to do this and was knocked halfway out by me. "System, help me. Kick him out." The traverser screamed as he struggled with me. The system responded indifferently. "Sorry, I can't do that." My consciousnesses collided, twisted and stretched, and it was as painful as being burned by fire or cut into tens of thousands of pieces by a knife. But I had no choice. I grabbed the left foot, then the right foot. Next comes the left hand, then the right hand. I started running to the 4th floor. As Randy made a desperate attempt to swing to grab the railing, I grabbed his arm tightly and dragged him into the 4th floor corridor. He looked at me in confusion. There was no time to explain to him, so I said to him, "Go!" He came to his senses, turned around and jogged into the classroom just in time for the 15-minute exam. Just as I breathed a sigh of relief, I was grabbed by the time traveler and squeezed out of my body. I no longer have the strength to struggle. White light enveloped me. I felt like I was completely dissolving. 28. I had a dream. There was a little boy who looked about 8 or 9 years old catching mosquitoes in the woods. The boy looked a bit like Randy. At first I was trying to catch them seriously, but then I started scratching my arms and legs. It wasn't until my face started to itch that I realized my whole body was covered with mosquito bites. Little Randy came over and put the sign of the cross on all the bags on my body, then started laughing. I saw that he was clean and white, and I was very angry, so I cursed him in a low voice. "Why do mosquitoes only bite me and not you? I won't play with you anymore." He had no choice but to pick a lot of flowers and stuff them into his mouth. "What are you doing? Mosquitoes love flowers. If I pickle myself to make it smell good, the mosquitoes will come to bite me instead of you. It's so kind of you." Little Randy's ears turned slightly red. "You are my best friend." The dream suddenly changed. I lay in bed. My body felt cold and heavy. My head was foggy, and I couldn't move. I heard little Randy ask outside the door, "Martin's dad, what happened to Martin?" Then Martin's voice, "Martin has a cold. How can I help?" "Good boy, don't cry. Just pretend nothing happened. Martin will be fine soon." The sound of their conversation became increasingly blurred in my ears. The next second, my ears seemed to be drilled open, and something murmured and crawled into my mind. I couldn't scream, and after the intense pain, my consciousness lightened, as if I was floating. I saw a child with a big head, big eyes, and thin limbs. He looked like a smaller version of me in the mirror. He had a sinister expression that didn't match his age, and he muttered to himself, "Randy, right? For a veteran villain like me, it's easy for me to bully a little boy." My consciousness was quickly pulled away, squeezed, folded, and flowed towards the dazzling white light like sand. I was worried about Randy, so I tried to gather myself and struggle until I landed on a tiny body among the flowers. I stood up trembling in the cold wind, but after taking 2 steps, I fell to the ground. When I woke up again, I was in little Randy's arms, and he was holding a syringe and feeding warm milk into my mouth. I wanted to talk to him, but all I could hear was a meow. I forgot a lot of things and lived in the park. In my eyes, Randy was getting taller, smiling less and less, and often had scars on his body. I like the subtle scent on him. I like to rub his neck. He hugs me and talks to me. I'm so tired. There are so many bad things happening around me. My dad is a jerk. I know I should ask my mom to divorce, but I can't bring myself to do it. I'm a jerk too. Does Martin also think I'm a bad person and hate me? I will work hard to move forward. I want to cure my mother's illness and give her a good life. I can't break down. My mom will be fine if I just pretend nothing happened. I could feel him breaking and coming back together as he talked to himself, and I licked his chin, hoping to comfort him. As countless springs, summers, autumns, and winters passed, my nails and teeth became dull and my beard turned white. I thought I would slowly melt into time until that man with a sinister expression found me. "It's you. I failed to complete the mission because of you." He kicked me and I scratched him hard. But my internal organs are injured and my energy is exhausted. I didn't want Randy to see me dying, so I hid deep in the flowers. I like jasmine the best because the scent is very similar to Randy, although only I can smell it. When my consciousness was floating in the air, I saw Randy putting cat food down for me not far away. He was calling me, but I couldn't respond. I saw him leave disappointed. Turns out I'm not a mosquito. I am the real Martin. "Randy, I'd be lying if I said I didn't want to play with you. I love you so much, I don't know how I can stay with you longer." The scorching white light enveloped me. I struggled with my last bit of strength. My consciousness shattered into countless pieces, some of which fell on the grass and some of which were scattered in the wind. I floated into the tiny crack and heard the hum of fluttering wings. 29. "You are a waste." The traverser regained his body and angrily insulted the system. "I have completed so many missions, but you are the only one who can't help at all and even hinders me. I will file a complaint against you and deprive you of your system qualifications." He thought the system would not say anything, but the system became furious. "This system has been taking care of handsome girls and good boys for most of my life, and I was forced to take care of you before I retired. I tell you, your behavior just now is suspected of murdering the male protagonist. The punishment order of the main god system has just come down, and you have lost your qualifications." The time traveler was stunned. "No, how could it be murder?" The system forced him offline before he could finish speaking. Martin's eyes rolled up and he fell straight to the ground. The system looked at the unknown space in the air, tooted its tongue, and resigned itself to opening the transparent operation panel in front of it. "I understand. This game is to trick this system into giving up my retirement funds." When Randy came out after the exam, he saw Duanmei being taken away by the security guard. The surveillance camera captured Duanmei locking Randy up on the rooftop. "Duanmei will be punished." I stood outside the classroom and waved to him happily. "Randy!" He looked at my expression and his eyes gradually brightened. 30. This world is a redemption text. The redemption text has its own operating rules. Randy is the male protagonist in the redemption story who must be broken. He will experience all kinds of tragic experiences. The more tragic they are, the stronger the energy he gathers. When the energy is at its strongest, the Lord God system will send out the Redeemer to harvest the energy. The Redeemer doesn't have to do much. Sometimes just a snack or a smile can easily get everything from the hero. I woke up when my body was taken over by a time traveler, and my consciousness remained in this world, causing the plot line to shift. Randy also remained strong. After everything that had happened, there was no room for the Redeemer to appear. But the process still has to go on. In order to prevent me from dissipating, the system bound me again. I still need to continue my bullying mission against Randy. Randy was successfully admitted to the graduate school of University A, and I also got in thanks to Martin's donation to the library. Randy and I lived in the same dormitory. I bully Randy in a light way every day and just create some broken values so that the system can report to the higher-ups. The system said that since it was the last mission anyway, it would just consider it as early retirement and live with us. There's nothing wrong with that. The only problem was that Randy's smell was still attractive to me. During the day, I would gather my roommates to bully him, and at night I couldn't help but climb onto his bed and suck on him. I was embarrassed to ask the system if it was there at that time. 31. Back to the present. Randy was kicked out of the dormitory and moved to the apartment I bought. He did as I told him and slept in the master bedroom next to the balcony, took a shower with jasmine-scented shower gel, and did not close the windows. I climbed into his room from the balcony, lured by his scent, and floated all the way up to his bed, pressing my nose to his neck. It must be said that Randy has been going to the gym regularly since entering University A, and has developed a pair of pectoral muscles comparable to those of an athlete. Smells really good. Just as I lowered my head and was about to give Randy a few more mosquito bites, Randy grabbed me by the hair and lifted me up. "So it was you who bit me, little pervert." He looked at me and smiled, and I blushed. Randy grabbed my waist, rolled over and pressed me under him. "When are you going to break the window paper?" This line. My chest was rumbling, and I stammered, "Do you remember everything?" Randy nodded. "Yeah." As if to prove his point, he lowered his eyes, his long eyelashes trembling slightly, and gently kissed my lips. When our lips touched, my heart stopped beating instantly. Randy's kiss was touching but awkward. After the kiss, he looked at me with red ears and said, "This is our second kiss." The scent of jasmine becomes stronger. There's a throbbing gallop in my veins. Am I really that stinking? Randy suddenly lowered his eyes in disappointment. I realized I had pinched my nose again. I don't think I ever told him about the scent. "No, you smell good. I like you." I put my fingers down angrily. After I said that, I saw Randy froze and realized that I had confessed my feelings. Randy smiled with summer night stars in his eyes. "I love you." 32. Host. Randy's broken value is gone. Hurry up and bully him. 33. I'll suck you to death. It's all up to you.